Today we're going to be making fire oysters. Come on, let's get started.
Todo queda sabroso.
Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm Chef Patrick, and today we're going to be doing a grilled dish that is popular in New Orleans called fire oysters. Basically, it's fresh oysters that are char-broiled over charcoal, then they're doused with a lot of butter and topped with parmesan cheese, and it is amazing. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to clean our oysters. All right, so I got some nice oysters here from Terra Mar. I have about a dozen here. I'm going to clean them, scrub them a little, put ice over, and then rinse them in a colander so that we get rid of all that sand, right? That's normal. And then I'm going to show you how to open up an oyster. Okay, so I'm going to dump my oysters into this colander. And what I like to do is just give them a once over with a brush, with a scrub brush, and just remove that excess sand, right? The heavy stuff. Put some ice over it. That as we're washing it, it's keeping it nice and cold, but also it's helping remove that sand and that grit from the oysters. Rub it between my hands to see if there's any excess sand or grit. Remember to always keep it on ice to keep those oysters nice and cold. Keep them alive. Look at those beauties. Okay, now that our oysters are clean, we want to shuck them. That means we want to pry open the top and reveal that beautiful oyster on the inside. Okay, so now we want to get a nice clean tea towel or hand towel. This is mainly to keep the oyster firm in your grasp, but also as protection from the oyster knife jabbing your hand. This is an oyster knife. It has this pointy end, which is going to go into a part of the oyster and it's going to pry it open, but it also has this blade on the end. It's not very sharp. It's used to pry open the rest of the oyster. If you can definitely pick up an oyster knife, that'll be great. I got this at Publix for like $3, $3.50. You can even find it online. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our oysters that are now nice and cleaned. This flat piece is really the top half, okay? And this is the bottom half. The bottom half is where the oyster sits in its juices, what it's called the liquor. You want to save that liquor, so you always open from the top. On the end of this, you can see kind of like a little gap, a little hole, and this is where we're going to open our oyster. So basically, we're going to take our oyster knife, put it in that slot. We're going to give it a quick twist, right, to the right or to the left, and it's going to pop open. Then, with the side of our knife, we're just going to follow along and remove that top shell and then remove the oyster from its shell on the bottom. Okay, let's get started. So I place it on the towel halfway so that this end is showing, and I'm going to flip my towel over so that I can get a firm grasp, holding and putting pressure on that oyster while I take my knife. And you see how it goes right into that hole, and I'm simply going to pry, and we just popped it open. And we're just going to run that knife across the body, removing the top shell from the bottom shell. You see that little membrane there? That's where it's attached to the bottom of the oyster. And so we just want to free it up. And there you go. Okay, now that we have our oyster shuck, we're going to prepare a very simple but tasty butter sauce that is flavored with Aji Amarillo. Aji Amarillo is a Peruvian yellow pepper, a little spicy, a little fruity, and it's going to be a perfect complement to these fire oysters. Okay, so now I'm going to add in a sauce pot, I'm going to add 2 sticks of butter, that is 8 ounces, along with about a teaspoon of crushed garlic, 2 teaspoons of that beautiful Aji Amarillo, a few cracks of black pepper, and all we're going to do is put this on the stove, let it melt, and then we're ready to go. Now the last thing to prepare is just taking our Cotija cheese. Cotija cheese is similar to Parmesan. It is salty and tangy, and it's going to be a perfect topping for our oysters. Okay, I have my grill already prepped. Charcoal's already lit. One thing about the Pit Boss grill is that it has this lever here where you could actually raise that charcoal tray so that the heat is right on whatever you're cooking. And that's where I want it, because I want the oysters to get nice and hot really quick. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my oysters and I'm going to put them right on the grill. Again, I want them to get hot really quick, and that fire is smoking. Okay, now I'm going to close the lid. Okay, so it's been about 2 to 3 minutes. Now I'm going to take my Aji Amarillo butter and I'm going to just fill each oyster. And this is why they call it fire oysters. Now I'm going to close that lid again and let that cook for a minute or two. Okay, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear, but the oysters are actually popping. Let's take a look. Look at them. One just popped right out of the shell. All right, so now I'm just going to lower my charcoal tray with more of that ají butter. Then I'm going to hit it with this cotija cheese right on top. And that cotija cheese is just going to bake right into those shells. Oh man, we need a close up. Look at that. Look at that. All right, so now I'm going to remove my oysters. They're hot, they're bubbly. Please do not remove this with your hands, for these shells retain heat and they will totally burn your hand. Boom. Just like that. And all I'm going to do is just hit it with more of that ají butter. And I'm just going to let it fall on the sides. Then I'm just going to put some Cuban bread. That Cuban bread is going to sop up all that buttery goodness. Check that out. Whoa. Now let me just take a bite. Oh, it's buttery, creamy. That cotija cheese has just baked on top of that oyster. The ají amarillo, that spice, the fruitiness, brininess of that oyster. Oh, I gotta get another one. Oh, it's hot. Thanks for watching. If you really like this video, don't forget to like and share, and click that subscribe button along with the notification bell to stay up to date on all new content. And remember, food can look good, but if it doesn't taste good, then your cooking is in vain. So make it sabroso.